side here, guys.
I'm recording, Rick.
Huh?
I'm recording. That's okay.
Okay, awesome, Nelu. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. So we will start with Gus. And if he can't make it, I will go ahead and speak a little bit to the PMI. So again, welcome. We're very excited to host our first remote event. This is really exciting to get so many people on one bridge. So we were allowed a certain amount of bandwidth for this session, but I'm hoping that maybe next session we'll get to the 500. So we'll work on that for the next. So keep in mind that the South Florida PMI is really catered to helping you achieve your goal in your project management world. Understand that this event is actually a collaboration of many groups coming together. You got the South Florida Agile Association, you got the PMI, and you also have a lot of companies that are joining us today from different areas. We will record this and we will play it back and maybe post it up in the PMI site so that you guys can download it at any time. Again, thank you guys for joining us. I think you'll enjoy the session. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and present the working agreements just to make sure that everybody understands the technology and that we know how to communicate well. So Monica, we'll pass it on to you.
Hi, welcome everybody. So we're very happy to have you. Since there's a lot of us, we're gonna go through the working agreements. Please make sure that you change your name on the Zoom so we know who you are. If you gave us your email and your name, you will get the PDUs through the PMI. Make sure you turn on your camera. We want to see you. It's on the bottom part of your Zoom. You are defaulted on mute. So if you want to communicate with us, make sure to use the chat. We will be on the look, the team and the other coaches. So you can give us feedback, answer our questions. And if you need support with anything, you know, there's a bunch of us that have on our names, the admin. We're here to support you. So shoot us with a private message and we will get on to trying to help you. And welcome. Here's to Rick.
Thank you. All right, so I guess I get first stab at introducing myself. My name is Rick Reguera. Yes, I'm an Agile coach. Yes, I have a lot of certifications, but I'm just excited about this whole venture into the remote world. It was very frightening for us when we first, we're faced with these dilemmas that are coming up. So I think everyone's coping their own way. So it's excited that we're able to learn from a lot of the stuff that we're doing. So luckily, my team has been doing this for a while. So a lot of the learnings we're going to share today were things that we, kind of faced several years ago. So that's me, Rick Reguera. Who's next? Regina.
Awesome. So my name is Regina Batista, and I don't know about you, but I have been sitting all day. So I'm actually going to stand up.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm going to encourage all of you to stand up during this piece of it, because I think all of you have been sitting down for 8 hours. I know I have. And so I'm Regina Batista. I'm an enterprise agile coach with transformation expert. And right now, our focus is to help our teams facilitate better remote sessions. How do you keep that connection, that motivation in the midst of everything that is happening right now, right? So we've got some great topics to share with all of you, and I'm glad to see that you guys are standing up.
No, I don't see Connie.
If anybody wants to do some stretching.
I don't see Connie standing up.
There you
I
go.
see some other people there not standing up. There you go. Good job, Connie.
Okay.
There you go. Good job.
All right. These are some great exercises that we're actually doing with our teams, because again, nobody wants to be sitting the whole day. So these are some tips and tricks that we're going to share with you. Okay. Some icebreakers and some little breaks that could help you guys kind of feel a little bit more motivated. So that's it for my part.
I feel great.
Awesome. And now we've got some great, amazing coaches on the line. We're going to have them also present themselves. So we got Marcelo. Just a quick recap of who you are and why are you here.
All right. Marcelo, are you with us?
Now I'm able to unmute myself. Hi, how's it going, everybody? I'm Marcelo Lopez, for those of you who don't know me, but I think a whole lot of you already know who I am. So I'm going to hand it off to the person that's immediately to the right of me, the person who has a greater fashion sense in wearing a hat. Arthur, take it away.
Arthur.
Okay, thanks, Marcello. So my name's Art Zygmunt, and I'm an Agile coach amongst many other things. And but these few years, I've chosen to be an Agile coach because I love it, and I love working with Rick and Marcello. And this is a great group of people, and we're here to have a little bit of fun tonight.
Awesome.
Ray.
All right, we got Ray.
Great.
Thank you.
Yo, Ray.
Muted me. I was yelling at the screen before I realized that it was that I couldn't unmute it. I am the child of the group. Agile coach, worked a long time. Have worked with Arthur on a number of things at IBM. Happy to be here. Welcome.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, coaches.
All right. And I know we have other experienced people out there, so please understand that you're going to have the opportunity to collaborate. Remember, PMI is about networking. So you have a chat channel that you're going to be able to collaborate, but it's going to be very difficult for us to have everyone speak in this event. So please understand that.
All right, so why are we here today, right? A lot has been happening in our community and in the world. As you all know, we've all been asked to work remotely because of what's happening with the virus all over the world. It's scary times for the companies that we work for, scary times for our families, but we've had to shift our mindset. Now, there's a lot of you out there that have great experience working remotely. A lot of you have been consultants or have been working for companies where you've traveled and you have great remote techniques, so that's awesome. But there's some of you that it's the first time being remote 100%. And so we want to make this a collaborative conversation where we could learn from each other. And those of you that have experiences can share that with those that this is kind of brand new to them as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's about sharing and learning and improving and getting better on that side.
So we got an icebreaker.
Aha.
All right. Yes. So we're going to do this, guys. We're going to throw a poll at you guys to see if you guys can interact with us, right? Because that's one of the things we're struggling with. In a big conference room, you could quickly come up with an exercise, but now we're all remote. So you should be getting a poll right now. Is everybody getting it? Raise your hand if you're getting it. All right, awesome. Good job.
Awesome. So the first question is, what is your current experience working from home? Like is it like the lowest from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest? Lowest meaning I've never done this before. It's really difficult. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and our company is not providing any good, training for this or support. Or 5, same experience as in the office. I've done this before. I've facilitated teams. My team is doing awesome, and we're having a great time doing this, and no difference from before. And then there's a bunch of in-betweens.
So that's the first survey question, and we're going to get the results, and we're going to show you the results of that survey. Okay, but it takes time because people are logging in. How are we looking at with the results? Is that almost there?
People, instead of answering on the chat, you can actually answer on Zoom. If you have the opportunity, you can click on the screen you see right there. Can you see it?
Okay, so we're going to do a simple exercise with this.
There we go.
Since you're looking at the pictures, I'm going to have you do 2 things. Just quickly go like this. Let's see if my hand is actually seeing because I can't even see. Remember,
Yeah,
we got different screens here. 5, saying that you're a 5, 4, 3, 2, all the way down to 1. So let me see those pictures. I'm looking at faces. Okay, I'm seeing some 4s. What else? I got 4s.
No poll for me. Some people are not getting.
That's okay. We're doing.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Are you guys seeing it now?
There we go.
That's okay.
Awesome. Go ahead and submit.
I want to look at pictures. I'm looking at pictures. See, okay. Nice. All right, good job. Way to submit.
Oh, here's the. Okay, so
All right.
it's still working. It's still working.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of people that are seeing number 5 and 4. That's not bad.
That's good.
That's pretty impressive.
We got some
That
threes.
it looks like
Yeah.
we're loving it. You know, it's funny when I see you guys mention that. In my mind, I'm thinking of all the opportunities that now I can do as a coach that I wasn't able to do with a large group. I'm able to use some of my tools and actually get different types of interaction that I wasn't able to get before. It's forcing me to do that. So it's interesting that you guys are seeing a lot of value of that. But we still have a 1 out there. So keep in mind, you still have 1 person out there. You don't have to raise your hand. And we know that you're suffering through that, right? You're having some issues. You got some 2s and some 3s. All right. Thank you very much. You want to end the poll? I think we're ready to end the poll. All right.
I think we're ready.
Thank you for your participation. End the poll. Okay.
Okay. All right. So we said 4% said number 1 as the lowest. 9% said number 2, a little bit further up. 19% were in the 3s. 38% were in the 4s, and 30% were in the 5s. So it looks like 38%. That means you guys have some experience, but there's always room for improvement, which is great.
Love it. Great job, guys. Okay. Stop sharing. All right.
Awesome. So the next question is, Rick, what are your biggest challenges working remotely right now?
I've got no challenges. This is a piece of cake for me. My team loves me. They think I'm great. There's nothing I'm doing wrong.
Oh man, I'm going through a really difficult time. I don't know about you, but I'm having a hard time getting people to actually turn on their videos. They're late to the meetings just like they were in the office. And everybody's always trying to speak at the same time. I don't know.
Some people look good and some people don't. You know, what can we do? The people that are on video right now is because they look good. The people that are not, you know, hey, what can you do? No, but that is very difficult, especially when you deal with, and I'm going to tell you, some people are so focused on just getting work done, they forget the personal aspect of it, right? So this video really opens up a lot of lines of communication. It's so hard to read whether someone's really getting the point across.
Remember, face-to-face is one of the most important things that you want to have as a motivator for your team. So we want to hear from you. If you all have access to the chat box, if you can put some answers there as to what are some of the challenges that you're going through. And our coaches are going to be monitoring it for like a couple of minutes here, and we're going to pick some answers. Marcelo, are you taking a look at that? And don't be shy, guys.
You must be overwhelmed with stuff.
We have a lot of answers on the chat right now, Regina. There's some people sharing their challenges, some talking about their distractions at home, something about issues communicating complex ideas for consensus. Other talking about the
body language missing.
Body language missing. Yeah, that's a good one. Home distraction. Dishes,
dealing with the kids at home.
Even the dog or the doorbell. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of, it sounds like a lot of personal energy management and having a lot of things trying to pull you in a gazillion different directions and how to focus that. Does that sound like what you're experiencing, folks? Just give it like a quick thumbs down.
Marcelo, there were some people that said things like late attendees, lack of focus.
Okay.
Not necessarily on their part, but on the part of
right.
everyone participating. There was a couple of those.
Yeah, I was responding to like the overwhelming amount of things. Yeah, I mean, yes to what you just said, but the overwhelming amount of input all seemed like they were feeling like their brain was getting sliced. I mean, and you know, that's very prevalent out there. That's very prevalent out there. it is a common thing for remote folks to be encountering in that. So one of the things that I use to do that is a personal Kanban of all things to get some idea of what I really need to focus on. And then if you've got distractions like children, guys, mom, dad, or have to focus on these kind of things. Yes, I'll pay attention to you, but I'm working on this right now. And giving them something to see gives, at least, in my experience, something for them to say, oh, okay, I need to be more aware of mom and dad are not just here to cater to me. So something to think about.
Marcelo, I'm concerned a little bit. I'm concerned with the globe behind you and and the pull. It felt like it's pulling you away. So the only way we can actually have that conversation if people are actually looking at it. So he's now showing off, changing his background. So it's nice to have that interaction. You're on mute, Marcelo.
Marcelo, you're on mute.
But Marcelo did a wonderful thing for us, because it is recommended, like if you're on Zoom, to allow the background to be the background as opposed to a picture or something like that. And by the way, he looked like the Wizard of Oz.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And by the way, the virtual background is by working agreement with my teams. It's okay that the coach is in space.
All right.
And that, sir, is the ultimate working from home location.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
So we keep putting our challenges in there because we're going to address some of them at the end. As we're going through some of our presentation, some of those items are going to come up, okay? So please be patient, and the coaches are going to be interacting with you. So you should be there asking questions and challenging them. They're supposed to be giving you some questions, and not just the coaches. You have a group of people in this line that have experience. We want to hear from you. So go ahead and provide your expertise.
All right, so as transformation experts, we've had the fortune of having a virtual team for the last 2 years. We've been 100% remote. We're gonna now present to you our remote team, who's actually on the line supporting all of you on this. And so we're gonna ask them just really quick to say their names and where the location where they are remote from. Who wants to start?
Hi, everybody. This is Natalia. I come from Venezuela, but I live in Mexico.
All right, Mexico.
Woo!
Hi, everybody. My name is Jesus Cabrera. I'm from Venezuela, but I'm living currently in Peru.
Awesome. Peru.
Yay. Hello, everyone. My name is Nailura Terol. I come from Venezuela, but I'm currently working from Colombia.
Colombia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alfonso Rodriguez. I'm from Venezuela, but I'm living in Argentina right now.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aldio Cando. I'm from Venezuela as well, but I'm living in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Gomez. I'm from Colombia, and I'm in Colombia.
Okay, so this is wanted to introduce everybody our virtual remote team. Welcome, guys. Yay. All right. Okay, so here's some fact or fiction, just food for thought, okay? So on the average, remote workers are in their mid-40s and older. Is that fact or fiction? Remote workers are lonely and unhappy. Remote workers tend to be more educated. Is that true? Remote work, reduced communication quality. There's reduced communication quality in remote working. If your remote meetings are ineffective, always true. I don't know about that. Remote employees are more engaged, perhaps. Remote working productivity decreases. Brainstorming fails. Or remote work is the fastest growing commute option. Employees are more engaged. Working remotely boosts worker productivity, or it diminishes the corporate culture, or remote work keeps older people in the workforce longer. Some fact or fiction here. Just for fun, we wanted to kind of throw those out.
I'm concerned that some of these statistics were done before the situation we're in today, right? Now we don't have that option. You know, saying mid 40s, I say everyone's out there, everyone's remote. You know, I was in a class or a virtual class yesterday where I had students and I was talking to them because the whole class is now fully remote. So the interesting part of that session, and I'll share it with you, was a lot of them said that they weren't actually going to take remote classes anymore, that they were going to wait for the classes to come back because they missed that interaction that an instructor could do in class activities. I would change that. I think we as facilitators, we got to get good at this. We got to figure out how to do this so that we can have better interaction and using the tools that we have.
So regardless of our situation, age, or profession, we all experts at this, right? You know, you got millennials that are always on the phone, that are always texting and chatting. They're talking to their remote friends like all over the world, right? And a lot of us are already doing that. So how can we get better at that? Here are some common pain points. Office issues. My connectivity doesn't work. A lot of people, a lot of folks met, they were not comfortable sharing their videos. Their privacies are blurred lines because you're at home, especially right now, we're home with our kids. We're home with our families. So you've got your kids in the background, you've got noise in the background. How do you handle that when you're on a conference call, whether you're attending or whether you're facilitating? Building trust, leaders. How do you continue to have that trust in your employees? Do you come from a culture type of company that if you don't see your employees 100% of the time on the computer, you actually think that they're not working? Is there mistrust in your working environment? Did you have camaraderie before within your teams? Did they feel like one team? Or maybe you have an opportunity now to do something different as a leader. And what are the energy levels? If everybody's always like, you know, ragging into the meeting, oh my goodness, we have to do this again. How can you do something different to motivate them and just be a better facilitator in that sense? And then there's people that feel isolated, disconnected. How many communication lines do you have open, guys? You know, how often are you chatting? How open are you for people to reach out to you with questions? Or do you feel isolated? Or do your team members feel isolated? These are some very common pain points that are out there. And these are some industry standards based on statistics of one of the biggest struggles that people have working remotely. So I don't know about many of you, but is everybody in agreement that when you work from home, you actually work twice as hard? Please raise your hand if you agree with that. Okay, a lot of people have the perception that, oh, they're gonna work from home, they're on vacation, or they're taking time off. Heck no. I worked from home for 3 years and I had clients on the East Coast and on the West Coast. And guess what? My phone rang, and because I was home, I was always picking it up. I had a hard time boxing myself and saying, oh no, from this time to this time, I'm actually gonna take a break. So unplugging after work is very common. The loneliness part, that connection, how can we use the tools to feel connected? Collaborating and or communication, distractions, we talked about that before. Being in different time zones, right? How do you handle that in this remote world? And how do you stay motivated, taking time off, or having bad connections? So these are some of the issues.
So the unplugging from work, I can feel the tension. Like I'm exhausted after the day. Not that I wasn't exhausted when I came into work, but it's just very, yes, go ahead, Marcelo.
I got one on there that's not on this list, that's a little touchy, and I'm sure that more people have this problem, but are a little hesitant to make a mention. Have you been working at home and found yourself with the need to, I gotta go on a bio break, and you find yourself wondering, do I go and risk somebody calling me or somebody Skyping me? Or God forbid if I actually take it with me and the unthinkable happens. Has that happened to anybody? Happened to this guy. Full disclosure. I know that's a little touchy, but think about that.
I love it. Awesome.
You know, it's funny you should mention that, Marcelo, because that's a very good working agreement topic. Because You can't always plan when you're going to the bathroom. And sometimes you forget you have to do it. So, you know, in understanding with the people that you work with, that if I have to go and I have to go, I'm going to go.
Awesome.
All right.
Something
All right. This is where you
just remember to go on mute.
This is where a facilitator controls the meeting. I'm going to mute that conversation. All right. And we're going to go to the next topic. How about that? Okay. This is the power of the host. Okay. Mute your lines. Next topic, Regina.
All right. So we're going to focus a little bit on people, process, and tools, because the conversation is always around that, right? How do we mitigate issues around people, process, and tools? Okay. So here is the next section. We're going to ask the coaches. And the question is, what competencies does a virtual team need?
And since Art hasn't talked much, yes, I want to actually have Art. Art, are you there, sir? I see you're still muted. Now you're unmuted. Good job.
Yeah, no, I'm not here.
That hack. Go ahead.
Competencies a virtual team needs. There are so many. We've been talking about competencies and teaming, and that's really critical. And what's interesting is when we talk about teams, we're agile coaches. We're thinking about agile teams. McKinsey had an interesting article today, and working on remotely. And what they were talking about, since this is a PMI group, what happens when, in their mind, they were talking about small teams of 30 people. We think of small teams of 8 to 10 people. And so there's a lot more to it than just that individual team, right? So how does that team stay connected with other teams when they're all remote? And you've got more than one team that has to work together, and they have to work with a common message from management. Managers need to really connect with teams. And they had one manager who talked about the fact that he would go into team meetings one at a time to stay in touch. So the biggest challenge is working within your team and staying in touch and connecting to the people, and then connecting with the other teams and finding ways to continually communicate both with other teams and upstream, both with management and upstream teams as well, right? So that you can go all the way from ideation all the way down through delivery.
Awesome. Thank you, Art. Any other advice? Marcelo, do you have some advice for us? Oh my God, he's showing his screen. Focus, focus, focus.
Yeah, just like in real estate, it's all about focus, 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 whether it's personal focus, shared focus, or connected focus. Okay? Your ability to spend your attention is really a matter of how well you can focus on what's next, and being able to tell, hey, you're not next. Okay, so that would be my advice is practice focusing.
Awesome. So here are some critical competencies of virtual team members, right? They're independent, self-motivated, and disciplined. Yes, I mean, no matter what, professionally and what we do, we're very self-motivated, but to actually be working from, you're by yourself, you don't have anybody next to you, self-motivation, is a key. Intercultural sensitivity. Do you have people in different time zones, right? No matter what, sensitivity for the communication best practices you have to have when you're in the office, but then now you've got people that are remote. How do other cultures communicate, and how do you have them buy into your working agreements? Manage complexity and uncertainty, proactive and cooperation, networking, competence to use information and communications and tools. So we definitely got to get good at these tools. That's very important. And then being trusting, open, and being honest and transparent, right? And emotional intelligence. So that whole transparency of your team and that trustworthiness and openness as leaders, that's something that you definitely want to hone in a lot more right now with your team members.
I wanted to share a certain situation. I think when, let's say a month back, I think we were all failing when it came to doing a good job dealing with the people that were remote. I can remember so many conversations of them saying, I only grasped 50% of what you said, Rick. You know, I couldn't understand you. I couldn't follow you. If you need me, just text me. You know, it's that kind of feeling. Now the tide has changed. Now you better learn how to deal with remote. And now everyone's in the same category. So it's now you're forced to understand what it really was. I can't read you and you. In fact, I have somebody who's hard of hearing. And here I am thinking, okay, wonderful, terrific. Now is she going to work in this environment? You know, how are people, and she has to read your lips. So those are interesting scenarios that play a part when you're now faced in this new world, but it makes us realize it now. We didn't appreciate it. We took it for granted. Now here's another scenario here. Imagine people that are on the phone today. They're not video, they're actually on the phone. How difficult would it be to actually understand what we're talking about? So there's a lot of conversation that needs to have to say, well, we're going to communicate in depth, right? And so again, interesting dilemma that we're faced, and it allows us to learn from this.
All right, we're going to ask the coaches again. Coaches, what are some best practices to facilitate the following type of remote meeting? These are very similar meetings. I mean, business has to continue. So we're having ad hoc meetings, just like you would in the office. You got invited immediately, right? Oh my goodness, this wasn't on my calendar, but I got to go to a meeting right away. How do you handle that today? Your ongoing meetings that were on your schedule. And then we're going to talk about agile ceremonies. And how about a brainstorming session? How do we handle some of these now with these remote tools and remote world?
I guess the first one is the instant message. I need to meet with you now, talk about it, and they're constantly interrupting you. You have so many different channels, text message, you've got your WhatsApp, you've got your this, you don't know where to go, you got emails. I haven't even looked at emails lately. I've been chatting so much online, my email is just filling up. It's just amazing how many channels we're dealing with.
So one of the biggest complaints, some of the biggest complaints that we've heard from leaders is like, I was already booked with so many meetings. Guess what? In the last 2 weeks being remote, we have even more meetings. So this would be a good time for you to go back to your teams, go back to your leaders, take a look at the current meetings that you already have on your calendar, understand how productive were they, who was the audience, right? And what was the validity of each of those meetings? If you can get rid of some of those meetings, that would be ideal. And then the ones that you do keep, how can you make them more efficient now in this new environment? Those are some recommendations that we have there. For us, we use Teams, and we're gonna get in a little bit into the tools later. And so we've been called into an instant meeting. I get a Teams call on my phone. The first time I saw it, I'm like, who's calling me? And it was a call from Teams. And it's because we had an agreement, which I really forgot, with some of our team members that if they needed to get us together in the middle of the day, they would actually call from the line. And then all of us would get the message and either go into our computers or go into the phone and go into that chat room. And so those are some examples of how to agree on coming together in some of those instant messages as well.
Marcelo, you want to add anything to that?
Not to those ad hoc meetings. Yeah, I mean, this is all great stuff, but I like to be a Boy Scout about that, which is be prepared. Think before you join. Do I really have to go? And then if you are going, state what is the purpose of this meeting? Why are we actually here? And then remember to try to stick to the purpose. Stick to the purpose, okay? Yeah. And because Art put it in the chat, time box it, baby.
Mm-hmm. So again, be careful with constant conversation where remember we talked, and you guys deal with this multitasking world, right? So think about you working right now and suddenly somebody wants me to answer a quick text message. That's gonna lose focus. And what do they tell you when you're doing 3 or 4 things at the same time? How does How does that help your productivity? Right? So I don't know if I did the urine right. There you go. So you got to be careful, and you got to make sure the ground rules are set, right? Which we're going to talk a little bit about later on. But how do you make sure that those things are well respected and followed through? All right. So next one is the ongoing meetings and ceremonies. So we deal with a lot with agile ceremonies. So understand that that's also has its own learnings too, right? How do you generate some of these? For example, I highly recommend as an agile meeting, the stand-up meeting, right? Now we should be doing that whether you're in an agile team or not.
Right.
This is a great opportunity. In fact, I had a team that actually said, no, we shouldn't do stand-ups. It was one of my business teams. They were fighting about doing stand-up meetings. Now they're actually forced to do stand-up meetings. This collaboration that they were lacking, now they have to collaborate to talk to each other, and it's bringing out a lot of interesting conversation.
And so, for example, in just regular projects that you guys are working on, if you happen to have like a weekly status report meeting or issue management meeting that happens at the end of the week, why not switch that over to a daily 15-minute touch point? Call it whatever you want, but why do you have to wait till the end of the week? Especially now that it's a lot more critical that you all have to communicate on impediments and roadblock. So because of the world that we're living in today, your deliverables might be a bigger jeopardy than 2 weeks ago, for all you know. So that would be a recommendation. Hey, why let's wait till the end of the week. Let's just have a quick daily touch point and keep it short and sweet. And that way, every day you guys are being aware of impediments.
I guarantee that all your executives are doing stand-ups right now. Every day, they're touching point to say, where are we? What do we need to adjust to? What do we need to pivot to? Because that's what's happening in today's world right now. We are learning things, we're adjusting, we're having to actually be agile.
All right.
So the last one, sorry, go ahead, Ray.
I was going to say on those ceremonies and those meetings, if you guys weren't doing the meetings very effectively and they were frustrating you before, try doing them with remote teams if you really want to be frustrated. So maybe if they're not really working out for you, maybe you need to take 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the meeting and have a little conversation of how you can get better. You don't have to wait to the end of the week or the end of the iteration or sprint. Sometimes you just have to do things ahead of time. So that is something to think about.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. And then the last one that we talked about, because again, on solving problems, many of us have to do brainstorming sessions. Oh my goodness, how are we going to do with a break? Right now, we got over 100 people on the bridge. How in the world are we going to do brainstorming sessions where we normally break people into teams and then they come up with some results and then they share with the bigger team? How do we make that happen? Regina?
Well, so a lot of the tools have breakout sessions, right? You do have to plan ahead. You have to see if the tools that you have has that functionality. But if you have some very specific exercises that you want to do with your teams, you got to do the agenda ahead of time. You have to set up the breakout teams ahead of time and formulate how you're going to run that exercise so that when you bring everybody together, it's already all pre-done and everybody can just follow the instructions. Understand your inputs and your outputs and the objective, just like Marcelo was saying. It's very, very important. And then make it fun and interactive. There's some great tools out there for that. I don't know, Art, do you have anything else, or Marcelo?
I think you capped it with make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
right. And we can talk more about, I think, when we hear about Marcelo and some of those ground rules.
All right. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, here are some examples of what we call remote working agreements, okay? There's probably a lot more than these, but these are some of the ones that we've captured that we wanted to share with you. So all teams, we recommend to have working agreements, regardless of whether they're remote or whether they're in person. How are we going to communicate, right? How are we going to be present? How are we going to bring escalations up, etc.? But these are specific to when we meet remotely, what are some of the things that we want to make sure as leaders that are put in place? So, hey, join a few minutes prior. That would be great. Mute your lines if you're not talking. Encourage everyone. Let's see you. We want to see you. Guess what? If you're facilitating, you want to see the people. You want to see the interaction. You want to see people's faces and how they're reacting to what you're saying. Or you want people to be able to see each other. When sharing the screen, close what you don't need. So it's important, right? If you got things in your screen that you don't want to share, only share what you're presenting. Inform if you're recording. You got to ask for permission for that, by the way. Agenda with meeting objectives, guys. You don't know how important it is, especially right now if you want to keep things time boxed. How many of you have had on an everyday basis people who hijack your meetings? They just start having all these crazy conversations, right? So now that you're remote, it is so much more important to stick to the agenda and time box conversations. Guess what, facilitators? Have a co-facilitator. Have somebody that can help report and time the conversations. Add team notes. No matter what, all meetings, you need inputs and outputs. Do you have a parking lot? Do you have an area to identify your risks and impediments? Use whiteboards for exercises, and then agree and document on next steps and action items.
So I love what you said about the whiteboard. I'm curious on the channel, if you guys use something similar to the whiteboard or something that makes it exciting. I would love to hear what you guys use, because we're going to talk about tools in the end, but I'm curious, what are some, nice tools that you guys use?
Yeah, if you can put this in the chat. So for the coaches, any other good tips on the working agreements that you might want to add?
As the Scrum Master or the project manager, set the example.
I like it.
I would add, talk one at a time, because that's all you can do when you're working like this, which takes some learning. So if somebody else is talking and you have an idea, jot it down on the side, hold your breath, and then when you get your turn, then you can talk.
Awesome. Thank you, Art. All right.
All right, another question for the coaches. So what should the facilitator, the co-facilitator, and the team members take into consideration when participating in a remote meeting? And some of the stuff we might have already talked about, but if you guys can kind of summarize it in a couple of bullet points.
So I think from a facilitation standpoint, Regina, you mentioned a lot about the pre-work. There's a lot of work that needs to get done. This is something, especially if there's the tool itself, if you're learning it for the first time, you really need to understand the grasp of it so that you can do things that maybe you weren't doing face to face, right? So I think that preparation really pays off. You need to make sure that you're talking through it, right? Because our first test here today, believe it or not, was getting everybody on video. We didn't know whether Zoom can actually handle all the video because they're having some issues, right? So that was our first preliminary test. You need to make sure you're testing your tools. You have the right document in place. As a facilitator, the first thing you need to make sure is, okay, if they're able to not able to log in, this is the document for that. If for some reason they don't understand the tools, this is the document for that. You need to make sure you're solving that really quickly. So those are some of the facilitation things that might come in handy.
But Rick, I like being the facilitator by myself. I don't want to share and have a co-facilitator. I'm like a leader. What are you talking about?
You are, Regina. You are the leader. I think that the question is it doesn't let you concentrate on your message. There's so many things going on behind the scenes, especially in this group right here. We have like 4 behind the scenes making this happen. If we had to do that, there was no way to execute this type of event without that support.
So why would a co-facilitator be helpful?
I don't know. We have some co-facilitators. Are you guys doing a good job co-facilitating? Marcelo, are you tracking the bridge, the line? Guys, how are you doing co-facilitating? Throwing it out there.
We think we're doing okay. We just wanted to make sure Carmelita is okay. She had her hand up before.
Oh, she had her hand up?
Okay, you got a question, Carmelita? Go for it.
Yes.
What was her question? Did you? So that's the thing about muting all the lines. We can't get everyone's input right now. So we'll work on
Put it in
that.
the chat, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Was there any good questions in the chat that were asked?
Asked and answered.
Asked and answered. You guys are too good, too quick.
Share your answer.
Share one of the good answers
Yeah.
that you.
Share the question and share the answer.
Come on, we want to hear it. Okay, I guess there's too many. All right, we'll let that as they gather that information. We'll bring it back.
And I think we're gonna have enough time at the end to kind of look at those. So coaches, please kind of handpick them, put them on the side, and then we'll share them at the end. We're gonna have enough time for that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Regina and Rick, as far as your co-facilitation question, if you are seriously asking the question, taking notes so you can summarize the meeting at the end, watching the people to see if they need pens, papers, or something, why is somebody not paying attention, ahead checking, if you're going to use a tool, ahead checking to make sure the tool is working. All the common sense things that you would run into running a meeting if you were by yourself that you would want to hand off to somebody so that you can focus on the topic, I think are all good co-facilitator type things. And sometimes if you don't have one, if you're running a team meeting, asking one of the team members to help is also very useful.
I love it. So one of the biggest things we always ask our scrum masters, and you can even ask your project managers the same question, right? What happens on the day that you're out? Does your team not have the meetings, right? So the way that we coach them is like, you want your team to be self-sufficient, to be self-organized. You want them to continue to have that meeting, even if you're not there. So one of the things we recommend is switch it up. Always have a different facilitator for your meetings. That's how you develop your team members also, right? Because one of your goals as a leader is to develop others. Teach them your best practices and your techniques. That way, man, your team can run smoothly the day that you're there and the day that you're not. So that's another really good reason for having a co-facilitator. So thank you, Ray.
You know, you just made me remind me of the record button. This is something we've never used before in normal meetings. Now I'm able to record this video. And guess what? I can come back and actually see some meetings that I didn't attend. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, but be careful. You don't want to be working late at night. So you got to give yourself some quality time to run. That's why my bike is in the background. You guys see it? That's my exercise. It's still up there though.
All right, as team members, what is our responsibility as we participate in these remote meetings?
So I think as a team member, you have a responsibility, right? So you need to make sure that you're there on time, coming in early, making sure you're collaborating, make sure you're talking what you normally do, but it is harder. It is more difficult to stay focused. And I think Marcelo mentioned that earlier. There's so many distractions and everything. Your cat, your dog, the kids are running around. It's really difficult to have that time that you're focused with the group. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenge for them is how do you create that space? And I think you guys talked about working agreement, and I think Art has mentioned this in the past in many sessions, we're talking about working agreements at home, right? You got to make sure you're setting up or Marcelo said it, sorry, I want to make sure I give the right credit. Marcelo was involved there. Give the right agreement to say, hey, during this time, I really need some quiet because I'm going to be meeting with the group.
Yeah, I think Marcelo, you have mentioned what you got. Your wife is working from home. Son is home. How are you
I have 4 adults working from home now. Office space is at a premium, which is why I'm in the patio of Shea Lopez.
Love it. All right.
You know, it is what it is. So, you know, today the weather was actually, you know, great. So it was useful. Now imagine if it had been raining, that would have been another challenge.
Yeah.
So
That would have been great video. Great video. It would have
Yes.
been memorable.
Yes, would have been very memorable video. So just getting
All
getting space to be able to have a conversation without interruption is a more precious thing now than most of us would have realized.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Here are some recommended remote tools. So guys, there's a lot more than what you see on this list. These are just some of the top ones that a lot of us have been using. If there's any other great ones that you all want to share, please put them on the chat line. We'd like to hear some of your best practices and cool tools that you guys are using. But video and audio, Zoom, WebEx, Cisco, MS Teams, Skype, those applications also have a lot of the below capabilities. Chat, Slack, Telegram, WhatsApp, text messaging, just good old text messaging also helps if you put a group text. Whiteboards, Jamboard, Mural, Concept Board, Mural, and then obviously a shared document repository, Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint, Amazon Cloud. I'm sure a lot of you already have a lot of those that you're working in your office. And these are some of the tools that are out there.
I think you got to be careful though. There is so many tools out there that are you able to just focus on a small? There's so much change that's happening in our life right now. Be careful to prescribe so many tools and say, you got to use this for this. You got to keep it simple. This is the time to do that. You wanted to make sure that you're taking care of, I mean, personally as a business owner, I want to make sure my people are good. I want to make sure that they're safe. I want to make sure those are the key areas that you need to make sure you're addressing. Yes, productivity is important. We're in here to make money. All the stuff on that. But if you're not taking care of the people right now, you're going to see them leave very quickly. Maybe not right now, but you will see it soon. So related to tools, related to the tools, what other little tidbits do you have on some of this just to share with the rest of the group?
Someone is recommending Teams, Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Each tool has their
folks have
thing,
started using that.
Go ahead, Marcelo.
And we got a shout out for SteamYard. Wow.
SteamYard.
For
I haven't even
Facebook.
heard of that.
Okay.
That's
Nice.
great. Now the only recommendation I would say about that is be very careful with your company's social media policy. The same kind of goes for like things like WhatsApp and Telegram. And I'll use an example for me. We'll work with a bank, and one of their concerns is having conversations that involve perhaps potentially sensitive, conversations through a system like WhatsApp or Telegram. Now, never mind that the conversation is encrypted. The fact is that WhatsApp and Telegram is really, really out of your infrastructure's control, unlike, let's say, Slack or Microsoft Teams. And if your team starts to use WhatsApp and Telegram, or even to a degree SteamYard, be very careful that you are not violating any of your company's security policies. You've been warned.
Which is why, to follow on to Marcelo's point, which is why there's a company responsibility as well, because they're the ones who should be coming and saying, so that there's effective communication, not only within your team, but across teams, across organizations.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to use Zoom for video conferencing. We're all going to use Slack for messaging. We're all going to use Morale, for example, for whiteboards. That's where they can come in and contribute and get everybody working on the same things. That's particularly important if you're going to switch from team to team, and then you have to learn a new tool because you're in a different team and they have a different set of requirements. So this is where the company's responsibility, following on to what Marcelo said, they have a responsibility to guide all the teams on what they should be using. And as Marcelo said, to make sure that there's a secure environment within the company so that they're not being exposed when someone's trying to do something malicious.
Ray, when you were saying that, all I could think about how difficult some of the leadership and I don't want to mention different companies, right? Because that's not, was for them to actually use some of these tools. Some of these people aren't technology driven. Some of these people are normally just in meetings. So now the skill set of leaders is changed a little bit. Are you still an effective leader working online? That's a great question. Are you still able to actually motivate your people online? What do you do as a leader to motivate your people, right? Do you send out messages? What can you do if you're not as technology savvy? How do you make sure that you're communicating properly and then you're in? So those are some interesting things that we're facing now with the different tools, right?
Right, and it's great to ask your company, are they providing training, right? Here's an example. Some companies have online training for everybody. Other companies, the training is happening internally within the specific departments, and a lot of us are being asked to put that training together. A lot of us are being asked to go into the tools, try to figure it out, and do this amongst our different teams and create tips and tricks. So this is also a great opportunity for you all to make a difference and help out in your organizations.
And share it, because the last thing you want is the waste of 17 people doing the same thing.
Agreed. Awesome. All right. Okay, current challenges. Find a way to communicate your current state. Again, one of the biggest questions is being asked, hey, how do we know when people are available? Is there a way to turn something on in the tool to say, I'm at my desk or I'm away from my desk? How are we doing that? Any tips on that?
So we use being, Teams and all the other tools has the ability to say, look, I'm away or something like that. That gives you a starting block. But again, you have to be careful of overloading people with some of these instant messages because they're losing focus. Yeah.
So allow time for social bonding. We've seen some great ideas coming from these teams. Goodness. We've got teams doing happy hours. They're actually, or cafecito time. They're actually putting this on their calendar. And we had a team where somebody came out with a guitar and they serenaded the whole team. That wasn't me. Okay, so make it fun. We had another team where they put on hat day and they had funny hats. And so you gotta keep the fun. Just like if you were in the office and now you can't go out to lunch together, take that time and take the break together and come up with some fun for that.
Yeah, see, Art isn't here to defend himself. That the fact that he and I have a competition of who wears better hats. So.
Oh yeah.
He is back.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm back.
And I think, Regina, you have a post right now where she's trying to see who has the best office space.
Yes.
So she has it in LinkedIn and she's sending it all around to compete. So I don't know. I think other people out there might have better ones. So you might want to check that out and post your office space or your work from home space. And let's see who's got the best.
So that's a remote challenge that we're going to challenge all of you.
I don't have her view, though. I mean, honestly, without the virtual background, she wins hands down. I don't have that view. I can't compete.
No, but it was something. We did a video with music. We had other folks that put like their kids playing in the background. We have somebody else that their dog is sitting right next to them or their cat. And you're at home. That's the reality of it, right? So kind of share some of your fun experiences there.
You mean pets are allowed? Oh man, if I knew that pets were allowed, I would have brought the dog out. Yoda wins hands down.
Oh, I gotta see Yoda. Awesome. So guys, we're also here to deliver, right? There's a huge risk right now in our deliverables because our environment is changing. So how do we continue to do business as usual while taking all these things into consideration? So measure your outcomes, not outputs. How do you continue to keep your teams motivated and delivering to, what you guys had agreed on more than 2 weeks ago? How do we do that?
And there's a fine line, guys, and I'm going to speak from two different angles here. Some of our companies here are going through very drastic changes that they need to encompass and take over a certain marketplace because it's the opportunity. There's a whole, but even though we're seeing a lot of problems, there's a lot of opportunities that some companies have to work 24 hours to get there. So they're stressing the fabric of the company, their employees, and it has to happen. It is what it is, right? It's not something that we could say, well, we're not going to work that many hours right now. We're going to take it easy. It just doesn't foster that right now. I hope that this is not long term, because this could really burn out some of these people, but it is what it is. So we need to make sure we realize that, and we talk to people and make sure that they're not, that they have some escape mechanism. Like Regina said, exercise or do something different to at least change that.
And so how do you have how are you building rapport with your teams in this new scenario? Like Rick was saying, it's an opportunity. Maybe you didn't have rapport with certain people before, even when you were face to face. You have a new opportunity to build a different type of relationship now. Guess what? We have to use the word servant leadership. How are you going to help your people remove impediments? How are you going to be there maybe more for them now than what you were before? It's a new opportunity, guys. It's a different world right now. Take advantage of it and build on your relationships and build on that collaboration. That's a challenge for the leaders that are out there. All right, tips and tricks. We got a bunch of them here. Assume good intentions, manage expectations, stick to a routine. Let's just kind of ad hocly speak to some of these coaches, because I think there's some great stuff out here. I'll speak to my favorite one of these. Video. How am I going to collaborate and have that connection unless I can't see you? Right now, for us, it's wonderful that we can actually see your faces, because we see, hey, you're listening to us, right? If you can't see your people, how are you going to know they're listening to you? Again, it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, but whenever possible, that really helps. My other favorite
And you can only get one, Regina. We got a lot of coaches.
I was speaking
no,
three.
she can only get one. Now it's my turn.
Okay.
So I wanted to actually hit team retrospective before she gets it.
That was my next one, right?
I know,
you beat me to it. That's fine.
So team retrospective is a must-have right now. Some people haven't had that chance to actually even run retrospects. So now we're asking, just get some feedback. But I'm going to give you a word of caution. Like I told you, we were going through some major times right now. There's a lot of change. Do not dwell on 80% of your meeting being negative. Stick to maybe 5%, because we really do need to bond right now. This is not a time to be separated. We have a challenge in front of us, and we need to work it out. So yes, you still have to mention the things that we got to get better at, but make sure you're moving forward in a very positive light. Okay. You, Ray, please. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay. Coach, do you want to pick one?
Can I take the first one? Can I take the first one, please? Assume good intent. I think my responsibility is to be honest, open, and trustworthy. Honest about my situation, be able to share with my team, and as it says, trust that the people that I'm working with have good intentions.
Awesome. Great job.
Cool.
All right.
Marcelo,
what do you read?
Why are we here? Explaining why goes a long way. Why are we here?
Love it. Great job.
That one works. That one works for me, man.
Respect for the time of the people on your team, since it's 5 after 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we actually
Yeah. So you want to share with them that the last one of these that we did, Rick, we did go over the time box. We had so many people interested that we actually did blow the time box, in full disclosure.
Yeah.
So we understand you have to drive.
So which is why we have more scheduled.
No, we actually have an hour and a half. So we have some time for some open questions as well.
All right. Go ahead.
All right.
We should do that. My favorite thing is with team retrospectives is getting to the root cause. So when people do the retrospective and they'll do fluff. And the retrospective is going to tend to be about things like how can we improve our UAT? How can we improve our testing? How can we, et cetera, and really have to get to how the team is working together, and include how the people are relating to each other, and make the retrospective something that's meaningful. And then when you pick a couple of things that you're going to work on to improve, get to the root cause before you just go ahead and just try to solve the symptoms.
Awesome. Great job, Art.
All right. Okay. We want to hear from you. Small steps can you take today to get an inch closer to bringing your teams together in this remote world? How can we motivate our teams to continue to embrace the same face-to-face culture of collaboration and transparency? This is your own personal record, guys, right? We hope you were taking notes. And what are you going to do tomorrow that's different? Just one thing. If you guys can put it out in the chat line and share with us what you're going to do tomorrow that's different. And can we open it up?
We could, but
and to see if somebody put something out there. And
I mean, we have the team's chat. So
we
coaches,
have one answer for the first question. Establish the working protocol by filling.
Working protocol.
Awesome.
Good job. What's the next one? Come on, guys, interact. Buy a hat.
Buy a hat.
Come on, guys.
How do we facilitate breakout sessions remote? Jennifer asks.
Jennifer, that's part of the tool. So you got to have that tool. I think in Teams, you actually have to request that to be installed. Zoom has it. And then once you have that tool, you got to assign people. So let's say you already know who's coming to your meeting and you already know who you're going to put in the different teams. You have to assign people to the breakout rooms, and then you have to time box it. But it has to be for very specific exercises that you guys are doing, because then you've got to have a reason for them to go to that room, have a conversation, make a decision or do an exercise, and then bring them back into the home room, if you want to call that.
And there's probably more tools there. We got to invest more. I know there's a lot of other things out there, so we got to work through that. I'm looking at some other chats.
What else?
What are we saying? Give team input on how we stay in touch.
Okay,
I like that.
good.
How we stay in touch. Guys, this is interaction. Good.
Yeah. Barbara Hollings on the first questions with all, the answer is first, with all my direct reports, we were doing it every 2 weeks.
You were what? I'm sorry, can you say it again?
We were every 2 weeks.
Okay.
I guess the weekly cadence, then they did it every 2 weeks then.
Every 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of once a week. Well, yeah, if that works, that's great. I would leave open that as a manager, if your direct report does have some sort of struggle, to let them know that you still have their back, and just because you've changed the cadence of your one-on-one, that if they really feel they need to, they should be able to come to you for guidance. That would be my one recommendation to I forget exactly who said that. Barbara, that would be my one thought, because we've had a couple of the managers who've come back, and we had a little working meeting about, hey, struggling handling our one-on-ones. Some people feel like they're left out. I'm like, well, then that's a thing you guys need to work out, so that if you extend the time between your one-on-ones, your direct reports don't feel isolated. They're already isolated enough as it is, right?
All right, awesome. We got Zanjo was saying that they were going to identify a co-facilitator. Awesome.
Now that one, especially during this time, that 101 with your manager, and asking them the strong question of, how can I help you? What do you need? Everyone's so worried about what they need, they forget to ask, how can I help you? Keep that in mind as you're working with your team members. Now, I'm going to give you some more scenarios that are uncomfortable. We as contractors, we as employees, there's still fear. There's a lot of fear in this industry right now that we can lose our job, that, can we find something early? So things that happen, we need to make sure we're clear on them. I'm going to give you an example. which is a very personal example. The other day, I couldn't log on to the network. So I said to myself, holy moly, it's that time, it's that fear factor that you feel, it's human, right? We are feeling this. So it's just be careful when you're communicating out there that you're not sending mixed messages or, that you're clear on it, okay? Very important.
We also have manage expectations and stay on course for question 2.
Good job.
Awesome. And we had somebody saying that that I guess they're going to put this on their working agreements. They're going to say, hey, no open-ended questions. You're going to ask your people to be very specific. What do you need from me? That's a good one.
I like it.
That's a good one.
I like it.
Yep.
What else, guys? What else is good in the chat?
We have removed the fluff from retrospectives and get to the root cause.
Yeah, my answer back to that person is, so does your team have a shared understanding of what fluff looks like? Because fluff to you may mean something essential to me, and vice versa. So I would start going back to that. I mean, I hate to be the broken record. Having stuff like that out visible, whether it's in a working agreement or some ancillary a document or something, that you have a shared understanding of what's expected, what's okay, what's not okay, and what do we need to have a kangaroo court and decide.
Awesome.
Ground rules, Bill. Ground rules. That's a great thing. That's actually an essential part of the working agreements that we're talking about. What's okay, what's not okay, and what do we need to have a kangaroo court about?
Love it. Enable off-hours socials. Maybe once a month, set up something fun at your place. That's when you need the video. Love it. Don't wait till once a month. Do it sooner. That's what I would say.
Yep. I'll share with you with one of the teams that I'm working with at what they did when we found out they were trying to use WhatsApp and they were like, no, let's not use that for tech. Well, can we keep the team chat? I go, okay, but use it for socializing. Don't talk about work stuff there lest we get ourselves into trouble. But by all means, talk to each other. And they set up outings, or they used to set up outings that way, and then they would catch each other. In other words, at some point, we had some team members that were like Ubering each other because they were that well connected. Now, obviously, they can't do that now. But for certain, establishing a good social connection helps, especially when you're remote from each other.
All right.
Awesome.
So again, trying to stay within the time box. We got a couple more things, and then Gus, are you there, sir? Make sure Gus is not muted. I want to make sure he has some words at the end. Not.
No, Gus is not muted.
Not.
All right. So let's wait to see if he shows up. So couple things quickly. There's some trainings, Regina.
Yeah, we've got some great remote certifications coming up from transformation experts. Please go to teculture.com or look us up on Eventbrite. These are some great certification classes that we have, all things Agile. We've got Kanban, we've got CSM certifications and SAFe certifications as well. So if you have any questions, just reach out to us.
Okay. Now, last question.
That's it.
Hold on. So the last question, I want to make sure we ask this on the bridge. We're going to be doing this on a weekly basis. The PMI is dedicated to helping the community out. So what we're doing is we're looking for, what do you think is a critical for your success in this remote environment? What else can we dive deeper into that you think would be an amazing asset for you guys working from home at this current time? What are we missing? What specifics do you want us to engage with? I know with the South Florida, we're going to be alternating educational providers. I believe Connie's going to be the next one. She's awesome.
Yay.
Woo, Connie. So we'll have an opportunity to keep growing and keep helping each other out, whether we're sharing best practices, documentation. We're going to be doing this on a regular basis to make sure you guys are okay. So please add what topic to the chat line that you think might be very important for us to dive deeper. I know we talked about a lot of different things, What would you think would be a good one?
Right? Or anything you want to learn about that you're like, my goodness, I don't have time to normally learn about this. Let's all get together and learn something new. Go ahead and add that as well, please. And do we have Gus on the line?
Gus, are you there, sir?
No, we
That's
don't have
okay.
him
No,
on the
he's not
line.
on the line.
No, he
That's
dropped.
okay. That's okay.
Sorry, did Connie
So
want to say
please,
anything?
Connie, do you want to
Or
say
Ed?
anything?
Is Ed on the line? Is Ed on the line?
Ed,
He
No.
dropped.
he dropped as well.
Not a problem. All right. So again, thank you guys for attending. Before we leave, we're going to take a picture. So I know this sounds strange, but we're actually going to take a snapshot of this whole meeting right now so we can share it in LinkedIn, right? In South Florida PMI. So we have our hopefully some of you guys are taking the bigger in Zoom. You have the ability to grab the whole group. So I have a certain amount of people here, and then I'm going to move down to the next group. So I need everyone to smile, okay? Like if you're enjoying this. And then we're going to take a quick snapshot. Regina's doing that.
All right.
Great job, Regina.
Okay,
Look at
guys,
that great smile.
Woohoo! All right, now do something wacky. Do something wacky.
This is a smaller group, Regina.
Okay, we're gonna do a bigger
A
group.
bigger.
Speaker view. No, the other one to the right. Full screen.
So,
Okay.
so our team, this is looking good, but can you guys do me a favor, try to get the full screen, everyone there. I'm only able to get a few groups. I don't know if you're able to take that picture. All right. Thank you again for joining us. Again, we'll have this weekly. Please give us your comments on how you think it went. What do we need to improve in? And have a wonderful day.
All right, and remember, have fun. That's the most important thing. If you do anything, have fun. Okay?
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job.
Great job.
All right, everybody.
PMI.
Great job.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Jennifer,
Can
high
we
five.
keep the TE team behind, please? For a couple
Get all
minutes.
the pictures. I wanted to get all the
Keep the TE team behind, please.
pictures.
Appreciate that.
A lot of great people online.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got all the pictures of everyone, guys. Louis, how you
Yeah,
doing?
we could keep the
Connie, great job, Connie.
Yeah.
Great smile. You ready for next week? Get ready. It's all you.
all you guys.
Yeah, I wish
We could keep the TE team a couple minutes.
Were you guys able to take a bigger picture on your side?
Jesus, you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, Jesus,
We're on mute.
please unmute yourself, guys, if you don't mind. Now that we're sticking around for a couple minutes.
So a lot of people on
Sort
the
that out.
bridge, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make sure nobody from TE drops off.
Still here.
Yeah. Yep. Is Art still here?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right. Ray is still here?
We still have lots of
Yeah,
people on the
we
line.
still have people on the line.
Okay.
Yes.
No worries.
Yeah,
No worries.
they're not
We got-
paying
we got-
attention.
Thank you all.
Anybody who's left just waiting for the meeting to end and just took off.
Yep.
All right,
Guys,
can
we
close
appreciate
out
your
the session?
your attendance. And, you know, we'd love for you guys to join us. But with your permission, we'd like to have a team retro. I'm not throwing you out, but it is past last call.
Yeah, I know some people don't know how to get out of the meeting, especially if they're on a phone.
Let's help them
Click,
out.
yeah, basically hang up the phone.
Jesus, are you disconnected?
If you're on the phone.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we've got a few people left. Is Aldo around?
Yeah, Aldo's on.
Okay. And then we've got a gentleman by the name of Horace. Boris, with your permission, thank you. Okay, and with that, I think we're good. We're just missing Ray. If someone could reach out to Ray, bring him back. Yeah.
Yeah, Ray's on Slack.
Okay, yeah, just ask him to come back. I'm going to go on the record that I think that this session was even better than the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're getting better as time goes by, and it's only going to get better still. So great job, everybody. Really.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcelo.